نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهد له فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة أيها المؤمنون عباد الله. As we come back بإذن ta'ala with some benefits, and we mentioned yesterday or last night a little of the biography of Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, pertaining to his abstinence and his wara'ah and his abstinence, mada, and his zuhud. So we will try to continue in this affair bi'idhnillahi ta'ala from the affairs of zuhud. And this word zuhud, it means to renouncing the worldly life, renouncing the worldly pleasures in order to gain nearness to Allah Jalla wa Ala. So as we mentioned in the story of Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, that it was presented to him some wealth. It was presented to him the dunya, but he didn't want anything from the dunya. He didn't want anything from this worldly life. So much so when individuals started to talk about the worldly pleasures, they started to talk about the dunya around Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala. It was said of him that he didn't want to be around these individuals. He didn't want to be around the people of the dunya. He didn't want to hear the affairs of the dunya. So this is the way that we should be. And I'm not saying that a person has to live in the shell, but he doesn't preoccupy, that the Muslim shouldn't preoccupy himself with the affairs of the dunya. وقال جل وعلا في كتابه الكريم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we ask for help. This is from amongst the affairs of ibadat. Al-ubudiyya ya ayyuha al-ikhwa. It is that the person, he preoccupy himself with worshiping Allah Jalla wa Ala and seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the Muslim, he doesn't preoccupy himself with the affairs of the dunya. Allah Jalla wa Ala, he mentions in the Quran, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَضُ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقِي. Whatever is with you will be exhausted, and whatever is with Allah Jalla wa Ala of the good deeds, it will remain. وقال جل وعلا في كتابه الكريم اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب وله وزينة وتفقر بينكم وتكاثر في أموال وأولاد إلى الآخر سورة. Know that the life of this world is only play and amusement, popped in mutual boasting among you, and in rivalry and respect of wealth and children, as the likeness of the vegetation after rain. So therefore the growth, it is pleasing to the tiller, and afterwards it dries up, and you see it turning yellow, then it becomes straw, but in the hereafter there is a severe torment. إلى الآخر surah. And then it is mentioned from the last the last of this ayat, it is mentioned that Allah Jalla wa Ala, He mentions in the surah that whereas the life of this world, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِنَّمَا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ، يعني الحياة الدنيا المتاع الغرور, that this worldly life, it is the life of this world is only a deceiving enjoyment. So from the affairs of the Salaf, that they abstained from taking pleasure in this dunya, they abstained from the worldly affairs, from the distractions of the dunya. And then also Allah Jalla wa Ala, He mentions إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض. And verily, the likeness of this worldly life is as the rain which we send down from the sky. So by its by its arising, by that which it arises, the intermingled produce of the earth, of which men and cattle eat, until when the earth is clad with this adornment, and it is beautified, and its people think they have all the power of disposal over it. And this is what you see today. The people, they have accumulated the wealth. They have accumulated the wealth and all that it contains. So much so that individuals, they are beautified with that which they have from the affairs of the dunya. And they have all of the power of it. They have all of the power of mother disposal over it. They have all of the things that they desire. And so the people, they amass all of this wealth to the point they think that they have all of the power, all of the things of the dunya that they accumulate. Our command reaches it by night or day, and we make it like a clean mown harvest, as if it had not flourished yesterday. So this is the life of this world, ya ayyuhan nas. This is the life of the world that the Salaf Salih, rahimahumullah ta'ala, this is the life of this world that they ran away from. They ran away. They ran away from the glimmers and the glamours of this dunya. وقال جل وعلا قل say متاع الدنيا قليل والآخرة الخير لمن اتقى. Say that short is the enjoyment of this world. The hereafter is far better for him who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وقال جل وعلا بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. Nay, you prefer the life of this world, although in the hereafter is better and more lasting. وكذلك أيضا يا أيها الإخوة. And train not your eyes in longing for the things we have given for enjoyment. Don't put all of your energy into this dunya. Don't put all of your energy into the lights and the wants and the craving of this dunya. But rather, take that which you are in need of. Don't go to the extreme and to be extravagant with the things of this dunya. So it is mentioned, and strain not your eyes in longing for the things we have given for enjoyment. Various groups of them, various groups of the disbelievers, those who disbelieve in the oneness of Allah, the splendor of this life, of this world, that we may test them thereby. But the provision, the good reward in the hereafter is of of your Lord. With your Lord it is better and more lasting. وقال جل وعلا في كتابه الكريم بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا. Nay, you prefer the life of this world, although the hereafter it is better. Really, we have made that which is on the earth as an adornment for it, in order that we may test them as to which of them is best indeed. إنما إنا جعلنا ما على الأرض زينة لها. We have made that which is on the earth adornment for it, beautification of it, in order that we may test mankind as to which of them are best indeed. And verily we shall make all that is on the earth a bare dry soil without vegetation or trees. Naam ya ayyuhal ikhwa. This was the dunya that the ulama are fleeing from. They don't want no portion of the dunya. Only that which they desire is al-ilm. They desire the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they desire to get close to Allah Jalla wa Ala. They desire seeking nearness, seeking the pleasure of Allah, seeking His face and His bounty. But rather they are fleeing and running away from the dunya, while individuals are chasing it. While individuals are chasing the life of this world. This is the only thing that is on the individual mind. Gotta get this money, gotta get this money, gotta get this money. Wa'iyadhu billah. So in many places in the Quran, it encourages one to renounce the life of this world. So the Quran, it informs us of its lowliness. and worthlessness and its insignificance and in this worldly life. Finally, it is coming to an end. That this world is going to come to an end. And the only thing that is going to be left behind, the only thing that you're going to be taking with you is your deeds. And that which will be left behind is the materialistic things of this dunya. That which you're going to be taking, it is al-amal al-salih. It is your deeds, your righteous deeds, or your bad deeds. So it is mentioned, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in his kitab, he mentions in the book of Al-Zuhud, he mentions that finally this world is going to come to an end. And at the same time, Allah Jalla wa Ala, He encourages the believers by placing in them an awakening desire for the next life and explaining the pleasures and the delights of an everlasting bliss. So if Allah wants good for His slave, He shows His slave the reality of this debased and fleeting life. If Allah wants good for His slave, He shows His slave the reality of this debased and fleeting life. So which of the two should take precedence over the other? This life or the next life? As you find individuals arguing and beefing and debating and fighting and killing each other over dunya, when this worldly life is going to come to an end, as it is mentioned, that Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentioned in his book, rahimahullah ta'ala, that Allah Jalla wa Ala, He shows His slave the reality of this debased, fleeting dunya. He shows His slave the reality of this debased and fleeting dunya. So many have defined this meaning of Zuhud, as it is mentioned that Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says about Zuhud and Wara'ah. He says about Zuhud and Wara'ah rahimahullah ta'ala. He says Zuhud is to leave alone those things which will not benefit you in the next life. Leave alone those things that it does is not going to benefit you. لا ينفع إلى الآخر. It will not benefit you in the hereafter. And the wara'a, piety, is to leave the things you fear might harm you in the next life. So zuhud is to leave alone those things which will not benefit you in the next life. And al-wara'a is to leave the things you fear might harm you in the next life. Naam ya ibadullah. As this, and this so far, it has been one of the best explanations, as we mentioned, pertaining to the meaning of zuhud and wara'a. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah ta'ala, he said about zuhud. Zuhud is to have limited amount of expectations and very few hopes. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah, he mentions that the zuhud is to have limited amount of expectations and very few hopes. It does not mean eating poor or inadequate. Eating poor or inadequate food. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you have to restrict yourself to just eating poorly. as many may think, or wearing a cheap gown or cloak, as he mentions, rahimahullah. It doesn't mean that you have to live in a shell and to live poorly. That's not what it necessitates. Regarding zuhud, as Allah Jalla wa Ala, He mentions in the Quran, in order that you may not be sad over matters that you fail to get, nor rejoice because of that which you have been given, or nor rejoice over that which has been given to you. And Allah likes not the prideful boasters. You find individuals that have this mindset of when they don't have it, they are stressed out, right? When they don't have the means, they are stressing. They are full of madness, or they're full of sadness. As Allah He mentions, lakin, in order that you may not be sad over matters that you fail to get. It wasn't meant for you to have it. It's not meant for everybody to drive a Mercedes Benz. It's not meant for everybody to be rich. It's not meant for everybody to have it. But rather, ya ayyuhal ikhwa, nor rejoice because of that which you have been given, or that which has been given to you. And Allah Jalla wa Ala, He doesn't like those who are prideful and boasting. You find the people with this attitude of boasting about what they have and being prideful about it. So as zuhud, it is defined as not being overjoyed with the glitters of the life of this world, and not to regret things which have passed, as Ibn Ja'lal rahimahullah, he said, zuhud is to know that this life is a temporary one. Zuhud is to know that this temporary life, that this life is temporary. It is a temporary one that will pass away. It should not be magnified or in one's heart. This dunya shouldn't be magnified or in your heart. Nor should much focus be placed on it, but rather one should turn away from it. It is said that this is يعني zuhud. Zuhud, ya ayyuhal ikhwa, it means to refrain from the dunya without showing off, to refrain from the hopes, the glitters and the glamours of the dunya. And I'm not saying it's not good to have nice things. I'm not saying that a person can't have some things that he like. But rather, zuhud, it means to refrain from this dunya without showing off, boasting and bragging and showing off what you got, and bragging about it, and posting things on social media, and posting the glimmers and the glamours of that which you have, boasting about it. So it is mentioned, Al-Junaid, rahimahullah, he said, zuhud, it means to free the heart from always wanting. Free the heart from always wanting this. As individuals are like this. This is the state of the human being, that he always wants. So as zuhud is to, rather it means to free the heart from always wanting. The great Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, he said zuhud is not to have too many expectations. Zuhud, abstinence, to abstain from the things of this dunya. It means to not mada, to not have too many expectations. Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, he also said, zuhud in this world is not to be overjoyed with one possesses, and not to be distressed by turning away from it, by turning away from the worldly life. Turn away from the social media. Turn away from the things that is distracting you. Don't be stressed out over it. Leave it, because it is no good for you. So Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, he was asked about a man who had 1,000 dirhams. He was asked about a man who had 1,000 dirhams. And if such an individual could be considered a zahid, one who renounces this world. So Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, wa alaykum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh marhaban. So it is mentioned, Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, he said, if such an individual could be considered a zahid, one who renounces this world. So Imam Ahmed, he said, rahmatullahi alayhi. But with one condition, which is, if his wealth increases, he does not become too joyful. If the person he accumulates a lot of wealth, he doesn't become overjoyful. He doesn't become too happy, overjoyful. And if his wealth decreases, he doesn't become distressed and unhappy. Allahumma ameen. May Allah bless you too. Jazakallah khair. So Imam Ahmed, he mentions that when a person with these conditions, the condition number one is that if the individual, his wealth increases, right? The person's wealth increases, he doesn't become overjoyous. He doesn't become happy. And if the person wealth decreases, if you find that that you don't have much money, or your money is decreasing, that you don't become stressed or unhappy. You don't become stressful because you don't have money. You don't become sad because you don't have money. You don't let the money control you. Na'am, don't let the money control you to the point that when you do have the money, you're so happy because you have the money. Now, when you don't have the money, now when you find yourself in a situation where you are struggling, you become saddened, you become stressed because you don't have money, because you have let the money control you. So it is mentioned, Ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said regarding zuhud, he said regarding this affair of zuhud, of renouncing the pleasures in order to gain nearness to Allah, renouncing the pleasures of Allah, renouncing the pleasures of this world. Imam Ibn Mubarak, he says, it is having trust in Allah Jalla wa Ala and being content in times of poverty. He said, as zuhud, it means to trust in Allah Jalla wa Ala and mada, and being content in times of poverty, to be content with what you have, to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that which you do have. Because individuals, they show their true colors when they have it. They don't praise Allah Jalla wa Ala much like they used to when they didn't have it. They don't praise Allah Jalla wa Ala as much as when they didn't have it. When they do accumulate wealth, they have the money, they have a car, they have a nice, nice things of this dunya. Then you don't find them praising Allah much like they used to. So it is mentioned, Abdul Wahid ibn Zayd, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said Zuhud could be practiced by a person even if he only possessed a dirham. A Zuhud can be practiced by a person even if he only accumulated one dirham. Subhanallah. هذا الحال يا أيها الإخوة. This was the condition of the Salaf. These were the conditions, and this was the attitude. This was they was from amongst the people who were zuhud. They were the zahid. They was abstaining from the dunya. As I mentioned, Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala. Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, he heard someone speaking about dunya. He heard someone in his presence speaking about dunya. And he didn't want anything to do with these individuals. He didn't want to be around these individuals. And today you find individuals, when they come around, all they talk about is dunya. Oh, dunya this, oh, this car that, this money, this, that. The Salaf wasn't like that. They abstained it from the dunya because this was a distraction, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. The dunya is a distraction. This worldly life is a distraction between you and the hereafter. The dunya is a distraction between you and the hereafter. Naam ya ayyuhal ikhwa. So Abdul Wahid ibn Zayd, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said zuhud can be practiced by a person even if he only possessed one dinar or dirham. Abi Sulaiman Ad-Darani rahimahullah ta'ala. Naam. He said zuhud, it means to leave the things that distract you from Allah Jalla wa Ala. And we have a lot of distractions. We have the cell phones, we have the iPhones, we have the iPads, we have the TV, we have the كل شيء. We have all of the things that distract us. So the Salaf, they said, as it is mentioned, Abi Sulaiman ad-Darani, he said, zuhud is to leave that which distracts you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many others from the ulama, rahimahullah ta'ala, rahimahumullah, they also said this statement. They said, as it is mentioned from Ruwimul Ja'naid. Naam, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. If I'm pronouncing his name right. وَهَكَذَا يَا أَيُّهَا الْإِخْوَةِ. He said regarding zuhud. Regarding zuhud, he said, it is to belittle the dunya as zuhud. To belittle it, to look at it as is nothing. Right? Don't look at the dunya like it is everything. Don't look at the dunya like that. Look at the dunya as it is nothing. You are just a traveler, traveling. We are just a traveler in this dunya, trying to get to our destination. Traveling to get to our destination. What is our destination, ya ayyuhal ikhwa? What is the destination that we're trying to get to? What is the destination that we're trying to get to? Al-Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. We're trying to get to Jannah. With all these distractions that is distracting us. We're trying to get to Jannah with all these distractions. Subhanallah. La ilaha illallah. So he says, it is to belittle the dunya, this life, and to wipe away its traits from your heart. To wipe away its traits in your heart. Individuals have arrogance with them because they got money. They have arrogance with them because they have some little traces of ilm. Individuals have arrogance with them because they are conceited because of that which they have. They are stuck on dunya. They are stuck on dunya. They are stuck on that which they have. May Allah make us not like that and make us humble and submissive. Subhanallah. So, as Zuhud, it is to belittle the dunya. To belittle the dunya and to wipe away its traits from one's heart. Dhunnun al-Misri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said about Zuhud, our ulama, they mention about this Zuhud, they mention about abstinence and abstaining from the worldly affairs because they see the importance of it. They see that it is rather a distraction. Zuhud, he mentions about it. Zuhud is controlling one's nafs. They said Zuhud is to control your nafs. Subhanallah, they extracted and explained and took so many benefits from Zuhud. This word Zuhud, he mentions that Zuhud is to control yourself, to control your nafs, to control your ego. Individuals are ego, they have this ego with them, like you can't tell them nothing. They are prideful and boastful, and they have this arrogance with them. They are stuck up, they are feeling themselves. So as Zuhud is to control yourself and to humble yourself. We are nothing. By Allah Jalla wa Ala, I am nothing. If it wasn't for the guidance, if it wasn't for Allah guiding me to Islam, I would be somewhere on the streets with my hand out begging for money, wa'iyadhu billah. If it wasn't for the deen of Allah Jalla wa Ala, if it wasn't for the tawfiq, if it wasn't by Allah's permission that I became Muslim, Allah knows best what I would be, what I would be doing. Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar. Na'am. So it is mentioned that Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, he said about Zuhud, he said that Zuhud can be put into three categories. Zuhud can be put into three categories. Number one, leaving the haram. Zuhud, bara'ah, abstaining, leaving, fleeing, running away from the haram. Zuhud can be into three categories. Number one, leaving the haram, the impermissible things. This is related to the common people. This is related to us. Because we are weak. We are weak servants. We are weak, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. We are in need of Allah Jalla wa Ala. We are weak. Number two, leaving the preferred things even though it is halal. Leaving the preferred things even though it is halal. This is for the specific types of people, from the upright and the steadfast individuals. Even though it is halal, even though it is permissible, wara'a, you abstain from it. Even though it is permissible. Subhanallah. This is for those who are upright and steadfast, al-istiqamah. those who have al-istiqama, ya ayyuha al-ikhwa. And the third is leaving the things that distract you from Allah Jalla wa Ala. This is the zuhud of the knowledgeable ones. This is the zuhud of the knowledgeable ones. Even though it is permissible to do it, but because it's permissible to do it, I may get distracted. I may get sidetracked. I may fall all the way into that which is permissible because of the distraction, because so many things that goes into that. So even though it's permissible to do, a person, he abstains from it for fear of going to extreme, for fear of going all the way into it, to the extreme. Naam. So it is mentioned, Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Ahmed's love. Mada Afwan. Imam Ahmed's, he mentioned about the categories of zuhud. It is the same as what we have mentioned previously, as we mentioned the affairs of zuhud, abstaining from the worldly life, abstaining from the worldly pleasures. So previously we mentioned the other names of the ulama that mentioned, they gave the definition of zuhud. But he explains it more in detail. There are 6 things that if the slave possess, then he deserves the title zahid. It is 6 things. If the slave possesses these 6, then he deserves this title to be called zahid. As it is mentioned, number 1 of them, from these 6 things, in order for the person to be called a zahid, number 1, moderation in spending wealth. Moderation in spending wealth. You find from amongst individuals that they spend. Every time you turn around, they spending. Number 2, lack of desire for leadership. Lack of desire for leadership. Lack of desire to be in the forefront. You have to be heard. You have to be seen. Number 3, moderation in one's appearance. Moderation in one's appearance. To be moderate, you don't have to dress so, you got to put everything on. Like today, everybody got to put, something to let it be known that, they spent money on it. They spent money on the Gucci. They spent money on the Fendi. They spent money on the whatever they have. To be moderate in your spending, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. Number 4, not engaging in too much with the people. Not mixing with the people too much. Number 5, learning to control your desires. Learning to control your desires. And this says, this applies to us. This is applicable to us. Number 6, moderation in things not concerning. Moderation in things I'm gonna skip the 6th one because I don't understand the 6th one. I'm not understanding how they word it, how it's worded. So I'm gonna skip the 6th one, and let's focus on the 5th, on 5 that we mentioned, as we mentioned it again. Number 1, in order for the person to become a zahid, to be known as a zahid, number 1, that he is moderate in spending, moderate when it comes to spending his wealth. The things that you see and like, you don't always have to get it. You don't always have to spend your money on things that you see and you like it. Nah, you can say, oh, mashallah, that looks nice. Mashallah, alhamdulillah, that looks nice. But that doesn't mean that you have to get it all the time. Number two, that lack of desire for leadership. Lack of desire for leadership. Everyone wants to be the sheikh. Everyone wants to be Sheikh al-Islam. No one wants to be humble and say, I don't know. Individuals don't like to say, I don't know. I don't have a problem with saying, I don't know. I'm not a sheikh. I'm just a small piece of, like, I'm someone just spreading someone who just spreading the information from the ulama. I'm just spreading the knowledge from the scholars. It's okay to say, I don't know, I'm not sure. Let me ask someone who knows more than me, who knows better. Let me go ask the ulama. As Allah commanded us to ask the ulama if we don't know. So it is mentioned, moderation in one's appearance. And I'm not saying you can't, I'm not saying you can't look good, right? That's not what I'm saying. It's praiseworthy to have nice things. To have nice things, but to go overboard, and spending all of your money on those things. Yes, you can have nice appearance. Make sure that your bed is groomed. Make sure that your bed is groomed. You look, you have a nice appearance. You have a nice thobe or whatever. Yes, you can have nice things, but to be moderate. To be moderate in it. To be moderate in your spending. And also, not engaging into too much talk. We find the people talk too much, gossiping, talking about this one, that one, this one, that one. He said, she said, kila wa qal. And then the talking, it turns into backbiting. It turns into backbiting without you even realizing it. It turns into backbiting without you even realizing it because you talking too much. So to be moderate in your talking, because you may go overboard. And also learning to control one's desires. Learning to control one's desires. We are human beings. We fall short. We see some things that we desire and we go for it, knowing that may not be good for you. That which you desire, it may not be something that's good for you. And if it is good, and if it's something that is good for you, then go about it in the correct way. For example, if you see a sister that you desire, she looks good, you are pleased with how she looks, you are pleased with her deen, then you approach it in the correct way by going through the right channels, the correct way. By you can ask her, does she has a wali, someone who is her father, her brother, her uncle, wahakadha, like that. But we have to learn how to control ourselves in regards to women and in regards to other things as well. Because our desires get the best of us and then we fall into sin. So we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to protect us, to make it easy for us to implement that which we heard. Dawood alayhi salam and his son, the Prophet Sulaiman, were of the noblest kings ever to walk the earth. Both had renounced this world. Subhanallah. Kings. We have kings of prophets that was kings, but they renounced this worldly life. They renounced the dunya, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. Here we are running towards the dunya. We are running towards it while our salaf, They ran away from it because they saw the evilness in it. They saw that it separates the heart, that the dunya, it separates the heart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It disconnects the heart from Allah Jalla wa ala. So at Dawood and his son, Prophet Suleiman, were of the noblest of kings ever to walk the earth. Both had renounced this world and at the same time possessed great wealth, women, other things, and other things of this world. They renounced the dunya, ya ayyuhal ikhwa. They left the dunya. They didn't want anything to do with it. They was kings, and they still had it. Allah still gave it. Allah still gave it to them. Allah still provided for them and gave them. They were still wealthy. Naam ya ibadallah. And as it is mentioned, the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, who also gave up the life of this world, he had 9 wives. And also, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Zubair and Uthman, they were all noble men recognized for renouncing the temporary life. Yet at the same time, these men were known to be wealthy. These men, they were known to be wealthy even though they renounced the dunya. If we concentrate on our ibadah, if we concentrate on our worship, if we concentrate on getting close to Allah Jalla wa ala, we don't have to worry about anything else. Allah got us. Allah got us. Allah got us, but we want to rush. We want to run towards the dunya. Subhanallah. So even though Mother, these great kings, these great prophets, these great companions, they was from amongst the wealthiest people, but they denounced the dunya. Subhanallah. Aina nahnu? Aina nahnu? Where are we? Where are we, ya ayyuhal ikhwa? Al-Hasan ibn Ali was known amongst the companions to be one who gave up this short life, regardless of the fact that he loved women and loved to marry them. And Al-Layth ibn Sa'ad was known to be of those who practiced Zuhud, though he possessed great wealth. That which seems to be the most excellent of the greatest sayings, defending the word Zuhud, defending this word as Zuhud, abstinence, is the statement of the great Imam, the Imam of Sunnah, Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullahu ta'ala, who said, Zuhud is not that you make the permissible things impermissible, or by wasting one's money, but rather Zuhud is that you acknowledge that Allah Jalla wa ala, you acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for the doers of good. It's better than that which they have. You acknowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised his believing servants that which is better. That which is better. But we don't see that. We don't see that. We want instant gratification right now. No, I want money right now. I want this car right now. I want this house right now. I want this business right now. I want all of this right now. I want the dunya right now. This is how we are. We want everything right now. Subhanallah. So it is mentioned, as we don't want to be too long. We want to close out shortly, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to close out with this. The ulama have differed as to whether or not one could practice zuhud, or one can, they differ if one can practice zuhud in or age, matter in time, if I'm saying this correctly. Many of the ulama have differed as to whether or not one could practice zuhud in or age at time. So Abu Hafs, he said, rahimahullah, he said regarding zuhud, there will not be any zuhud except in the permissible things. One being moderate in the permissible things. And then there are no permissible things in this dunya. As he mentioned, there are no permissible things. I'm not understanding this part. But in any rate, it is mentioned there will not be any zuhud except in the permissible things. One being moderate in the permissible things. And there are no permissible things in this dunya, in this worldly life. I'm not understanding that part, so we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala for His tawfiq. So this is what we want to end with right here. We don't want to be too long as as our class was on, to abstain from the worldly pleasures, to be a zahid, to abstain from the worldly life. And we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to give us the strength to be like how our Salaf was when it came to abstinence and abstaining and refraining, even in the permissible things. Even in the permissible things. And then later on, inshallah ta'ala, or later tomorrow, we will come back. We will come back and mention some more benefits as it relates to zuhud. We will come back tomorrow or another time to mention some more affairs as it relates to zuhud bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وآخر الدعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.